Here's my test data that I will be passing through to AWS Comprehend. I'm trying to produce some positive and negative sentiments, so the comments were made accordingly. From here, you can see that it's mimicking Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But if this was live, these would be connected to webhooks that would be called by your Twitter, your Instagram, or your Facebook, or any other source that you wanted to pull from. So we'll send this through to AWS Comprehend and look at the data that comes out of that. Now I am in AWS CloudWatch and I'm showing the data that was logged out from the application. This first logged information is just the information that I showed earlier. This is the comment, and it's saying it came from Instagram. This next piece of data is a combination of what comes from AWS Comprehend and what I added. So the AWS Comprehend is the text. So from here to here is what comes back from AWS Comprehend. And it basically is saying that this text is positive. It's almost 100%. I don't think you can get 100%, but this is pretty much guaranteeing that this comment is a positive comment. What I added, and we'll see why I added these words, basically taking this stuff or taking the text and removing the stop words, and it's a very rudimentary removal of stop words, just some words that I said take out. And then I said, is this a question? And all I did for that is basically to say, if it has a question mark in the text, then I will consider it a question. Now, we're inside of CloudWatch, and for the sentiment, if this would have been negative, there's also an alert that would go out. So in addition to looking at the data cumulatively, I wanted to say, well, if I ever get a negative, I want to know about it instantly. So that was done through a CloudWatch alert. I could have done the same thing with a question, because you might say, hey, if I ever get a question, I want to go ahead and answer that person to, be more responsive. But that definitely could have been a check too, to say, if is question, then go ahead and alert me. I'll sign on to, in this case, Instagram, and go ahead and respond to that person, letting them know that, hey, I quote unquote review all my messages, even though it's being done, by an application. So from here, we will go and look at what comes out of AWS OpenSearch and Kibana. So now we're looking at AWS OpenSearch, which is basically a Elasticsearch. So this data is coming straight from CloudWatch. I set it up to where CloudWatch streams the data over to Elastic or OpenSearch, and I think my trigger was if it was type Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, go ahead and send it over here. But of course, you can set your filters to be anything that you want. One thing that I forgot to mention in the other video section was for the data, I created a random timestamp so that once we got over here, we can kind of see that you can filter it. Everything wouldn't have been coming at their current timestamp, which is the default when you're streaming stuff from CloudWatch. So basically, I created a timestamp that gives us some variety. And in here, I've got everything set to the last 30 days, which will catch everything. But of course, you can switch this to be whatever you want it to be. Last 7 days. It looks like, still got most all of them, but you can switch this to whatever. Um, so this is basically, the discovery of the data. So you can kind of see what you're getting. And of course, in our case, we know exactly what we're getting because we're producing it. But it gives you a quick way to kind of look at it from here and create filters and prepare to create some visualization, which is what we'll look at next. So now we're looking at a dashboard of the data, or using the data that we sent over from CloudWatch. So basically, at this point, it's easy to see where we've converted that data into information that we can use. This is our data table. It's basically a trimmed down version of what we saw in the discovery. So only things I was interested in for this was the timestamp, the sentiment, is it a question, and the actual comment. So it gives us an easy way to show, the sentiment with the comments. We can sort it and we can say, well, in this case, I only want to see the negative comments. Oops, I'm sorry. I won't only want to see the negative comments, so that'll be a plus there. So it looks like I've got 2 negative comments, and of course, like I said earlier, we would have received a notification because those were the ones that we triggered on to send us an alert. So like I said, this is just the text, it's the data table, but below we've got some visuals that help us see how things are going. So, we in the comments I mentioned that it was me going to a local restaurant that gave me this idea. But, it's a small local restaurant today and now, but if this person had a franchise of restaurants and they wanted to see this, then this would give them a great snapshot of, how things are going at the moment based on their filtering criteria. So this is basically saying that 58% of your comments have been positive, 23 have been neutral, 11 have been negative. This here is basically showing you the numbers associated with the sentiments. Let's go over to this one. And this one here is basically showing you where you're getting your feedback from. Looks like 52% was from Instagram, 29% from Facebook, and 17% from Twitter. Now this one here is a pretty good one and I like it. So this will basically tell you what people are talking about. In this case, for the Chicken Shack, it makes sense that the chicken is the largest word in here. This is a word cloud, and it puts the words on there and gives them the relative height, to how many times it's been mentioned. And this is where we get, this is the source of this was the word array that I mentioned. So that's a nice little way to say, okay, what are people talking about when they leave comments on my pages for my restaurant? Or, it could be anything, restaurant or whatever, but that's what this is for. And, as you filter, you want to say, hey, I don't want to see, let's go and say in this case, I don't want to see the negatives. What does everything look like? So I take negative out and it shows me this information. Let's see what negative would have shown if we just say only negative. Let's see. Only negative. What words? Poisoning, yep. So yeah, that's pretty much corresponding to the comment that we made. But yeah, if you had, 100 negatives and you can kind of see, or is there a pattern to what people are complaining about? So we'll take that back off. And yeah, I think that's it. So this is basically, giving a concrete example of how you can take data and turn it into actionable information. And I wanted to do it in a way that, most people could relate to and understand.